Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to Lily Mae Francis' Saturday mental health presentation. Joining us again is Dr. Wise, who's here to talk to us today about managing our triggers. Turning it over to Dr. Wise right now so we can hear her words of wisdom.
Thank you so much for inviting me back. I am excited to speak with you all today about mastering our triggers. I don't want to take too much of your Saturday, but I did want to go ahead and kind of give us some tips on what it looks like to understand our triggers, know that they're there, and be able to be in control of those. So today I'm just going to give us 3 easy steps on how to pause, process, and protect and master our triggers. So, a little bit about me. I have been a mental health advocate for over 15 years. I've been a licensed practitioner for 12, almost 13 years now, currently licensed in North Carolina and South Carolina. One of my loves is my role as a clinical supervisor. So I get to pour into the provisionally licensed clinicians as well as those clinicians in training. This field has taken me so many different places. I've been in higher education, psychiatric facilities, intensive outpatient, and private practice. And currently, I'm the owner and clinical supervisor at A Wise Decision, which is a counseling and consultation firm here in North Carolina. So, enough about me. We are here to talk about mastering our triggers. Um, and here's a little bit about what we will do today. So first, we're going to just talk about what emotional triggers are, and then we're going to jump right into those steps on how to pause, process, and protect ourselves when we are emotionally triggered. So first, I want to, Nikki. This is where I will need your help to kind of man the chat. If you feel the need, you can answer in the chat. So I wanted to check to see how aware we are with our own emotions. So I have a couple of scenarios that I want to share, and you can either take a mental note or you can put it in the trigger. And Nikki, you can let us know what we have. So first, I want to know: is it a trigger or a treat for you? Your significant other sends you a message that just says, "Can we talk?" and there's no context. Would that be a trigger or a treat? How about if a friend takes hours to reply to your emotional text, then when they do reply, they change the subject? Would that be a trigger or a treat? How about your teenager did not take the trash out after you reminded them and they missed the trash pickup for the week? Would that trigger you or would it be a treat? What about you were late to work due to heavy traffic, and when you arrive, your manager reprimands you in front of your colleagues? Trigger or treat? And last, you're venting about a rough day, and your best friend responds with, "It could be worse." Would that be a trigger or a treat? All right, Nikki, what did we get? Did
I'm
we
showing
trigger?
all triggers except for one that was mid, and I agree with the mid one. It was the one about, I think, if your friend calls you or doesn't call you back and then changes the subject. That was, I was wondering if there was a neutral for that one. But
Got
everything
you.
else is trigger
Got you.
across
So
the board.
all those are things that would disrupt you emotionally. And I'm glad that we're aware of those things, right? And so let's learn a little bit more about our emotional triggers. What are emotional triggers? Emotional triggers are specific experiences that conjure intense emotional reactions in an individual. The experience can include a person, a place, an event, memory, or even a sensory cue that reminds the person of a past traumatic or distressing time in their life. When triggered, individuals can experience a range of emotions such as anxiety, fear, anger, sadness, or guilt. But it is important to note that all triggers are not negative triggers. Some can evoke positive emotions. It's just the negative triggers are the ones that usually have the maladaptive behaviors that are tied to them.
Mhm.
So, like everything in our world, we like to put things in categories, and the same thing goes for triggers, right? There are different types of triggers, and I want to give you some examples of a few that are most common. So, first, let's start with our situational triggers. Our situational trigger is, well, a situational trigger is an event, object, place, or situation that can evoke a strong emotional or physical response. It's often associated with a previous experience or trauma. So, for example, a child that has experienced a home with excessive arguing, yelling, and anger might be triggered by loud noises, screaming, shouting, or even seeing others argue. So, this situation takes them back to a time where they weren't feeling so safe. Then we have our relational triggers. So, a relational trigger can be a setting, a person, or a thing that provokes an intense emotional reaction. It's often rooted in our past experiences, so within relationships. It's a push on an existing area of emotional sensitivity. It brings up past experiences and creating intense emotional response. So, for example, a partner's late arrival. If you have a history of abandonment or rejection, your partner's lateness might trigger some feelings of insecurity within. And then we have our internal triggers. So, our internal triggers, an internal trigger is a thought, a feeling, or a physical sensation that comes from within. This feeling can lead to a reaction that creates a desire or an urge to engage in a particular behavior. A lot of times, these individuals report feeling uneasy, anxious, or depressed. So, for example, you begin to feel stressed after a long day at work, and without really thinking about it, you head to the kitchen and you grab a bag of chips. The crunch and the salt give you a quick sense of relief, even though you're not really hungry. So now that we know that we have these different types of triggers, what is it that we need to do when we realize that we have been triggered? The first thing that we want to do is we want to pause. We want to slow down the automatic emotional response. What does that mean? Well, we got to figure out what's happening, right? And so, what is happening is that our amygdala is being hijacked. Now, our amygdala is a part of our brain's limbic system that's primarily responsible for processing our emotions, particularly our fear and our aggression. And so, when this happens, our amygdala perceives that we are in threat, right? We've been triggered. So, our body reacts in our fight or flight response, and it begins to release those hormones, the cortisol and the adrenaline. At this time, our amygdala is considered to be hijacked. Now, the prefrontal cortex is the part of the brain that's responsible for our rational thought and our decision making. And because of this, what's going on with the amygdala, this part of the brain is temporarily shut down. Now, this is what leads to the consequences of the impulsive reactions, our difficulty controlling our emotions, and sometimes irrational and or inappropriate behavior. So now that we know that our brain has been hijacked, we know what can we do? We want to pause. And how do we do that? We become aware of our breathing. We want to get still. We want to bring attention to our breath. And some people like to count to bring themselves back down to calm themselves. So you can count to 10 forwards or backwards. You can even begin to use the 4-7-8 breathing technique, which is where you inhale for 4 seconds, you hold for seven, and then you exhale for eight. Once you have gained control of your breathing, I want you to conduct a body scan, right? So continue to breathe, but now you're going to bring the awareness to your body. And from head to toe or from toe to head, whichever direction you choose, I want you to take notice of any tension, any tightness, any heaviness that you may feel in your body and begin to tell yourself to relax. And then you want to create a mantra, a slogan, or a go to phrase where you're telling yourself, I am safe, I am grounded, I am here, I am protected, this is temporary. So, whatever you need to tell yourself in order to bring yourself down, it can be the mantra that you go to when you realize that you have been triggered. Okay, I want to check our awareness, right? So, when we've noticed that we've been triggered, we learn some steps that we can do to control ourselves and bring us down. Another thing that I love to do is trigger mapping. Now, this is just a technique that helps you to become aware and familiar of what your triggers are. It's a really, really cool technique that once you become familiar with it, you can do it in the moment. But we do have some free guides on the internet that you can go to kind of help you kind of map your triggers. And when you're mapping your triggers, the process is really simple, right? You're just recognizing what causes the strong emotional or behavioral response. Then you want to link that trigger to the emotion, thoughts, and behaviors that directly follow. Once you do that, you become better aware in how to manage and avoid those triggers. And so, again, these are just a couple of worksheets that can help you while you're beginning that process to understanding your triggers. This one is one of my favorites because it allows you to be proactive, right? So we know that being triggered is a normal reaction for all of us. Some of us are learning how to manage those so that we don't have the negative consequences. We want to have positive results, positive outcomes. And so this allows you to be a little bit proactive, right? So what are three of your biggest triggers? How can I avoid those triggers or reduce exposure to those triggers? And if it's unavoidable, because sometimes we're triggered by things that we can't avoid. For instance, a trigger may be at work, but we have to go to work. Um, what can I do to calm myself in the moment when I'm unable to avoid those triggers? So being proactive when learning your triggers will also be beneficial to you because when we know better, we can do better. All right. So once you've paused and you've slowed down your automatic emotional response, we are ready for step two, which is to process. We're going to decode and understand what the trigger is communicating. And really, that just means you are learning how to communicate with yourself. You are learning how to talk to yourself and you're learning how to listen to yourself. That's what this step is all about. You want to ask yourself questions like, what does this remind me of? Where did this take me? What did I feel in that moment? And sometimes, if that's not your thing, you can write down those feelings or those memories. But once you are able to get it out, you want to do step three. You want to reframe your thinking and you want to find solution. You want to find positive solutions to those outcomes. Again, because I want you to remember that triggers are normal. Everyone has them, but it's all in how we respond to them. So, what is the way that I can approach this so that I'll have a positive outcome? Now, I know we can't always do that in the moment, right? Sometimes things are going on. So, I want you to remember this method called the HALT method. And so the HALT method is a quick emotional check-in tool that helps you figure out if your basic needs are being met. Because believe it or not, our basic needs do play a part in how sensitive we may be feeling in any particular moment. So the HALT method is asking yourself these questions. So if you're not able to begin process immediately, ask yourself these questions, right? One, am I hungry? Because it is a fact that low blood sugar can make you irritable, anxious, and unfocused. So, have I eaten recently? Do I need to eat something? Then you want to ask yourself, am I angry? Unprocessed anger can sneak into how we react, right? So, am I holding on to any frustration or resentment that might be misguided in this moment? Then you ask, am I lonely, right? Am I feeling disconnected? Because disconnection can amplify the feelings of stress within us. And so, do I need support? Do I need connection? Do I need to reach out and talk to somebody? And then finally, you want to ask yourself, am I tired? Because we know being tired can drain our ability to cope. So, am I running on empty? Do I need to take some time and rest so that I can recharge and rebuild myself? So, again, if you are not in the situation where you're able to begin to process immediately with the first three steps, I want you to check in with yourself with the HALT method to see, am I hungry? Am I angry? Am I lonely? Or am I tired? And then we have step three. We are going to begin to protect ourselves. We are going to begin to set boundaries and create our safe spaces. What does that look like? It looks like reclaiming your time.
Mm.
The first thing you want to do is set up boundary setting scripts. Setting boundaries is not easy. And those that you begin to set boundaries with, it will change and it will be different and there may be some pushback. So if you have some things that you can go to express yourself in those moments, it may help, so that you don't go right back into those behaviors or those actions that you're trying to get away from. So, gentle but firm boundaries can sound like, hey, I need a moment to breathe before I can respond, right? This is great for when your emotions are rising and you need some time to regulate yourself. Or you can say, I hear you, but I need to step away for a minute. So that is acknowledging the other person, but without abandoning yourself in the moment. You need some time. Um, that topic feels overwhelming for me. Can we kind of shift the conversation? So it redirects without defensiveness. Again, it's being able to stand up for yourself, but also acknowledging that, hey, I know that there's something that needs to be addressed, but right now I'm not in the place to do that. And then one of my favorites is I care about this, but I also need to take care of myself right now. This just reinforces empathy for yourself and for the person. Then you want to know when to walk away, right? Know when enough is enough, when you're feeling yourself getting to a level that you don't want to be. It is okay to be able to walk away. Again, you want to protect yourself, protect your space, and protect your time. And then finally, for those moments where you are in there and you're unable to get out, do you have a survival kit that you've built to kind of help you? And anything can go in your survival kit, right? You can have something where you keep with you grounding objects, a stress ball, maybe a fidget toy, a fidget spinner. Some people enjoy taking notebooks everywhere they go, so you can have a notepad or a journal. We even have journal apps on our phones that you can use if you might need to take out. Um, People forget that, getting your thoughts down, even just a couple of sentences, they can help release a lot of mental tension. So, jotting down some notes in the moment. For our music lovers, you can create a go-to playlist, right, with soothing sound, soothing music, or your go-to music, or have your favorite podcast ready and waiting, again, to help regulate your mood. We also have things like scented items that you can put in your survival kit, essential oil rollers, again, things to calm your mind down, bring you back, and bring you to a space where you feel more in control. And then we have our affirmation and our coping cards. These are just like handwritten notes that you've written to yourself with phrases that keep you going. So this too will pass. You got this. This is temporary. You're doing amazing. You're a star. Whatever you want to write to yourself and say to yourself to bring you back to a space where you feel that you're in control is really important to put into your survival kit, especially in those times when you cannot avoid those triggers. All right, we want to check our awareness now. We talked about those 3 steps. Um, and I just want to check our awareness one more time. So this is another tool that I enjoy using. When you become more familiar with identifying your triggers and more aware of calming yourself down and reflecting on what it is, sometimes we do get into a battle of our emotions versus our logic. So the wise mind model is a dialectical behavior therapy. You may have heard of it as DBT tool, and it helps balance between our emotion and our logic when we're making those decisions and handling tough situations. So it's really just about emotional mind plus my reasonable mind, and the balance between those is my wise mind, because our emotions are usually driven by our feelings and our urges. Our reasonable mind is more focused on logic and facts, and that can sometimes feel a little cold and disconnected. So again, the ways that we can find our balance is our wise mind. We do a little bit of our intuition, a little bit of our logic, a little bit of our emotion, and we find a happy solution. So it's really more about asking myself, like, what feels true, what makes sense at the same time. And so remembering our 3 Ps. So when we find ourselves triggered, we feel a little emotionally dysregulated, we know that we have those 3 steps. The first step that we want to use is we want to breathe. We want to take notice of our breath and notice of what it is that caused us to be in this state. We want to realize that our brain has been hijacked, and so I may not be acting rationally right now. So let me take some time to breathe and slow down. Then we want to process this. So we want to decode and reflect. What happened to me in that moment? Where did it take me? How am I feeling? Why did I go there? And just reflect on where you went, why you went there, and how you can prevent yourself from going there again. And then protect. You want to set your boundaries and respond wisely, right? And so making sure that you can take care of yourself in those moments is truly important. It's important for you and it's important for those that you're interacting with. So always wanting to respond wisely and looking for the positive solution, even when we are negatively triggered. I also want to give you guys some resources and tools for your support. So as I shared, I love the Therapist Aid website because it has a lot of free workshops to help you along your journey. But these are also two other websites that are really amazing that provide free resources for you as you are becoming more and more familiar with working on managing or mastering your triggers. We also have wellness apps sometimes when we are triggered. Some good meditation music can bring us back down. So these are some wellness apps that are also free that you can check out to help you and to add to your survival toolkit, as well as the health apps, especially the first one, All Trails. This allows you to know about any of the parks in any of the areas. So if you need to get out in nature and you need to walk, Yoga Wake Up provides you with different yoga exercises daily that you can start your day with to even, like I said, be proactive and be ahead of the game. And then the Day One app is a journal that allows you to kind of write your thoughts in real time, but also capture those moments with pictures, with voice memos as well. And if it gets too much where you feel like, hey, I'm not able to master my triggers, this is a little bit more and I might need some assistance with that, I definitely encourage you to reach out to a professional, a practitioner to assist you with that. And so here are some sites that will help you find someone in your area. And these are free sites to, again, look for someone in your area if you feel that you might need a little bit more assistance on this journey. And I feel like I spoke really, really fast and went through really fast, but thank you guys so much. And I am open to any questions, comments, or concerns.
That was wonderful. And no, it was timed perfectly.
Okay.
When you're presenting, it always feels like you got to the end real quick. But no, it was great. A lot of great information. I want to say thank you for the HALT acronym because that was new for me. And
Yes.
and I was like, okay, um that really speaks to a lot of the, I guess, the origin of a lot of triggers that we get
Yeah.
to.
When you're hungry and you're angry, you're feeling a little lonely, absolutely. And so taking inventory of those things is really important because, like, am I oversensitive in this moment?
Hmm.
Right? Is there another need that needs to be met?
And what was the L again? Oh, lonely. That
Lonely.
one I had a question about. I wonder if it would have the same response if the L was not necessarily for lonely, but feeling unsupported in that moment. Does that
And
make sense? What I'm asking?
and that is a form of loneliness, right?
Okay,
I don't feel this connection. I don't feel this support at this time. So I'm feeling out out here by myself.
I by myself.
Mhm.
Okay, okay. Well, thank you for that. I did have another question. What was my other question? Oh, I'm not quite sure which category it would fit in as far as types of triggers,
Mhm.
but um, I know that sometimes certain things in certain situations can trigger people, can trigger mental health symptoms, right?
Mhm.
So something might trigger my anxiety or something might trigger depression.
Mhm.
Um, maybe Christmas time, for example,
Mhm.
or if I see someone that looks like someone or I'm reminded of someone that I've lost.
Mhm.
Which category would that be under? Would
So
that
when you
be
say
internal?
like holiday, so I don't want us to get hung up on the categories, but
Okay.
what you're saying, right? A trigger is a trigger, but I would say that an event like Christmas time is a situation. It's not, it's a situational event that's going on this time of the year. So if we were wanting to put it in a category, I would probably say that might be a situational. Uh,
Hmm.
Grief, I would say maybe that's an internal trigger, right? Because I am thinking about the memories or the thoughts of whatever it is that I'm grieving. And so I have evoked those emotions internally. And so I would probably, if I was categorizing that, put that in the internal triggers category.
Okay. Okay.
But again, that can all be subjective.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the key thing is that it is a trigger. It has it has evoked a response out of me that I'm not too happy. It's a negative response. I am now stressed. I am now anxious. I might be depressed or all those things. And so now that I know that this thing, whatever it is a trigger, how do I get ahead of it?
Do you feel like it's an important exercise in self advocacy if you inform people that you are in relationship with, no, not just everyone, not someone in a grocery store going, that triggers me, but if you do let people that you're close to know, this is something that triggers me, um, I guess to garner support or to
I think
prepare
it's
yourself.
important for people that we are in close relationships with, and that's any kind of relationship, friendship, marriage, whatever it may be, because we want these people to know these things, right? Is that an excuse for me to act out because I've been triggered? No. It's say,
Hmm.
hey, this triggers me and I'm working on it. But would you be also conscientious of how we go about this as well? So it's a two-way street. Like, I'm not going to use this as an excuse to act out, but I'm letting you know that, hey, if this happens and I act out, I'm working on this. And then the other person is, well, I know this triggers this person, so I'm going to do my best to see if I can avoid doing these things as well. So that's where the communication comes in.
The communication being key.
Yes.
Okay.
I have a question.
Hmm.
My trigger that I have a question about is about grief, right? So, when triggered by grief, how can I process my emotions without feeling overwhelmed or without shutting down and avoiding people? Because I think I'm an
Hmm.
avoider of my feelings too.
Hmm.
So, do you have any, I guess, strategies or guidance about when triggered by grief?
So I know that grief is a wave, right? And so I would encourage you, if you feel the need to shut down and sit in those emotions for a while, then I think that is okay. But I would encourage you to give yourself a time frame, right? If you shut down for a week and you're like, I can't do this for a week, but if you give yourself a day or so to feel those emotions and say, now after today, I'm going to do these, put some things in place to make yourself do that and make yourself come out. Because I don't want us to run away from our feelings again because they're very real, but we can't allow them to take over our lives. And so, how do I manage that but still honor that I am grieving?
Awesome. Thank you.
Ma'am.
Okay. Did anyone else have anything they wanted to ask or share with Dr. Wise? Okay. I did go ahead, Dr. Wise, and take the liberty of dropping in the chat the link for therapist aid and the trigger page specifically, just
Thank
in
you.
case anyone wanted to like copy that real quick.
Okay.
But I also appreciate the other resources that you provided as well. Um, Very informative. Thank you so much for your time and your information. We can't wait to have you back again.
Thank you for having me back. This was fun. I appreciate it. And again, if anyone needs help on that journey, just reach out.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. You guys have a great Saturday.
You as well.
Thank you guys. We'll see you in 2 months. We'll meet again for our Saturday presentation in June. And so just keep an eye out for that information. Thank you guys for coming out.
Bye.